Morning, everyone. So we started with an article yesterday on um, on a podcast from Hidden Brain. It's called "Keeping Secrets: The Power of Self-Disclosure." And Shankar Vedantam interviewed Leslie John, a Harvard University psychologist who studies the costs and benefits of self-concealment and self-disclosure. So I'm going to jump off from some of the material we read that in the article. So this is one of the paragraphs. When you keep a secret, one of the tricky things is that your mind is very active. Keeping a secret is not a neutral thing. We think we we think that not sharing is neutral, but in fact it can be an incredibly active process. So I was wondering about that, and it was interesting for me to consider. So you're going to get some of my musings today, because not only in regards to how we share our meditation experience with others, I thought it was interesting in the direction of our self-honesty in a meditation practice, but in the meditation actually. So not sharing our meditation is often for a variety of reasons, and there's no dictum that you have to share, although we've seen benefit for people sharing their experience. But I'm considering the reasons that you might not share, I might not share, that the most activity is with are due to fear that we won't be able to express ourselves well, fear that will be misunderstood, fear that we'll be hard on ourselves after what we say, and we play it again and again and again and not be able to let it go. In my experience, those feel like active processes, not neutral at all. So I'm kind of agreeing with her on this point. And because speech and giving voice to our experience is such a big part of our practice, it can be another area that we expect ourselves to do it right, even if logically we know that's not the expectation. So there are rules in Buddhist meditation that we break in reflective meditation. One is by being curious about the hindrances in a meditation. Again, in our meditation sittings or lying downs or walkings. But also being curious about our stories, our thoughts and feelings, and not just allowing them into the meditation, but getting to know them better, being interested in them, and getting to know them from a Dharma perspective. And let let those stories be more refined by those Dharma teachings. That the direction of ethical action comes from letting those stories into our practice. And so one consequence of that in reflective meditation is that we face some of our secrets in meditation. And we don't have to share all of our secrets with others. This is done in the privacy of our mind and body. There's, again, no expectation that we share everything. But the things that we don't typically show to the world, or we try to restrain, our judgments, our criticism, maybe even self-pity, our whining, petty or juvenile thoughts and actions, if these aren't allowed into meditation, they may operate not only without awareness, but also with shame for having them. So, we also find that we can ignore or distance or dissociate from what we don't want to know about ourselves or feel. And some of my secrets weren't even known to me until I became more aware of them from different angles, and I could finally face them in a way that felt safe. But here I think I'm going into talking about the unconscious, about what's unconscious more. And then I went, well, maybe another definition of unconscious is an unintentional secret. And I really wonder about how much energy it takes for us to be unconscious. We spend a lot of energy trying to be aware, but it seems like it takes also a fair bit of energy to remain unconscious. So this is back to the podcast again, and this is chakram. So many of us, I think, intuit that self-concealment has costs. Leslie, and many of us, I think, intuit what those costs are. So Leslie responds to him, Bronnie Ware, my hero, has spent years as a palliative care nurse, a lot of time with people at the end of their lives. And she wrote a book on her observations of what people tend to regret at the end of their lives. She came up with 5 things that people have said at their dying beds. And I'm going to go into all 5 of them and just state a little bit from a Dharma perspective. So the first one, she said that almost everybody said with who she interviewed is, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. And I think this really hits a mark on self-concealment. The Dharma encourages us to find our own path, to listen to the Dharma teachings, but not just adopt them as is. You really have to find them through your own causes and conditions, through your own direction. And maybe it's Dharma is more like a slow-acting courage juice, because it feels so slow sometimes that we don't even notice it's working. A small honesty here, a little bit of a risk, a little less pretending. It's not like just going on stage and suddenly being our true selves. It's just more like slow drip of courage to be more true to ourselves. The second one is, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. And we address this in the Dharma, the energy of striving, trying to get it right, trying to anticipate every outcome before we act, trying to be a more polished version of ourselves. So self-concealment can be a kind of overwork. And here again, I think that it's an active process. It's overworking. And our direction is to relax that striving. The third one is, I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. Again, courage, not performance, not eloquence, just the willingness to let something true move through your speech and action. Or, and I'll even, emphasize this, or just admit it privately to yourself in the quiet of your meditation and reflect upon it and have it be part of what you know. Yes, okay, that's it on that one. So, okay, the next one. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. It doesn't say I wish I had been more spiritually advanced. It's really, as we talk about in the Dharma, about connection and spiritual friendship, friendliness. And finally, I wish I had let myself be happier. So yesterday, I noticed I was happy. And that was strange because I haven't felt that happy lately about many things. But I wasn't happy for a reason or anything that I could point to. Nothing extraordinary happened. It was more like a free-floating happiness that came over me. And it was nice to talk about and actually explore and have a conversation about feeling good when I felt good. So I'll go in this direction. Self-concealment isn't only about hiding flaws. It sometimes conceals our joy or minimizing it or distrusting it and refusing to let it fully register. So it's kind of going against self-concealment when you are really knowing what's happening and what's going on and expressing it to yourself and maybe to others. So self-disclosure, self-concealment. This article has taken us into a lot of investigation of ourselves, of self, which could seem, again, like another rule we're breaking in Buddhism, or the opposite direction of a teaching on anatta, which is not self. But if we can't explore the selves that arise with the conditions of our lives, they'll operate outside our awareness. And consider, this is how I consider it. I'm asking others to consider that exploring ourselves is not solidifying them. not typically, not in the direction that we want to go. We're not exploring it to confirm the self. Our direction is more about allowing ourself and our stories to be changed, to be refined by the Dharma, rather than defended by our fears or by what we don't yet know about ourselves and others. Okay, I'll end here. 10 o'clock on the dot. I feel really proud.